Have you ever imagined being completely isolated, deep in a forest, surrounded only by trees, silence, and a presence that shouldn't be there? And what if suddenly you realized you're not alone, that something is watching you, something that is not human, something that doesn't belong to this world? Today, you're going to hear a real story, a terrifying account of survival, fear, and encounters with the unexplainable, an experience that pushed not only physical limits, but especially psychological ones. And if you think you're ready, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might change forever the way you look at the unknown. My name is Daniel. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I've been obsessed with hiking, camping, and extreme survival challenges. I've always searched for remote places, far away from everything, where I could disconnect from the world and test my own limits. And it was exactly this obsession that led me to a forest in northern Canada, a place few people know about, surrounded by stories, some about wild animals, others about strange disappearances, and of course, ancient legends. Legends that spoke of people who never came back. But me, I've never been the type to believe in those things. At least, not until that day. The plan was simple. 3 days of camping. I brought everything I needed: a tent, food, map, compass, flashlight, and survival gear. I arrived late in the afternoon. The silence was different. Not the normal silence of a forest. It felt heavier, denser, like the forest itself was watching me. I set up my tent, made a small campfire, and started hearing the usual sounds: wind, leaves, distant animals. But soon, I noticed something strange. Sounds that didn't belong there. At first, I thought it was just paranoia, but every time I stopped, it felt like something else stopped too. When I walked, I heard footsteps mirroring mine, but coming from somewhere else. And then, the whispers started. You know that sound? When you can't understand the words, but you know it's a voice. That's exactly what it was. And the worst part was that it came from everywhere. Sometimes far, sometimes way too close. I quickly realized things were out of place. One of my water bottles that I had left right beside my tent suddenly appeared almost 20 meters away, as if someone had moved it. Footprints, but they weren't human. They weren't animal either. Deep, long, like claws, or something being dragged. At this point, my breathing was rapid. Cold sweat was running down my back, despite the freezing night. The feeling of being watched turned into absolute certainty. Around 2 a.m, I heard it. A sound I can't even describe. It was like a scream, mixed with a whisper, mixed with a crackling noise, all happening at the same time. I grabbed my flashlight, and when I pointed it, I saw it. Between the trees, there was a figure. Tall, very tall. Thin. No, not thin. It was like A shadow, a stain, darker than the darkness itself. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching me. And when I looked away, it shifted positions. When I looked back, it was closer. And then, closer again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight. And then, it started. The tent began to shake. Something, or someone, started pulling on the sides, like it was trying to rip it out of the ground. Objects were being thrown at me. A rock hit the side of my tent with such force that it almost tore the fabric. And the sounds, oh God, the sounds got louder. Voices saying my name. I heard it. Not once, not twice, over and over. I ran. I burst out of the tent without looking back. I grabbed my flashlight, my backpack, didn't even care about the rest. I sprinted toward the trail, but the trail wasn't there anymore. The vegetation, it was different, thicker, darker. The path I knew was gone. And the worst part, the sounds were coming from everywhere. Footsteps chasing me, branches snapping, something breathing right behind me, so close that I could feel the heat of its breath on the back of my neck. At one point, I tripped, fell to the ground, smashed my knee, rolled down a small hill, and for a few seconds, I thought I was going to black out. But the silence that followed was even worse. Absolute silence, as if everything just stopped. No wind, no insects, nothing, just silence. I stood up, looked around, and there it was. Again, that figure, standing still, at the top of a hill, watching me. And when I blinked, it was gone. I kept running, my body barely responding, legs shaking, chest burning. The only thing that kept me moving was fear. Pure, primal, absolute fear. With every step, it felt like the ground was closing in. The trees seemed to move. The forest was alive, and it didn't want me to leave. After what felt like hours and maybe days, I saw a light, dim, far away. I ran towards it with every bit of strength I had left. It was a clearing, and in the center, an old rusty sign, almost unreadable, but it was a marker for the main trail. I was back, or at least, it seemed like it. But the silence, that same heavy silence, it was still there. It felt like it was still watching me, still waiting. When I finally made it out of the forest, it was nearly noon, and ever since that day, I've never been the same. I developed anxiety, fear of open spaces, fear of any sound I can't immediately explain. And no matter how many people try to convince me that it was all in my head, I know what I experienced. I know what I saw. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see it. That shadow, that presence. And I can feel it never really left. The forest is not just trees, dirt, and animals. There are things there, things we're not meant to understand. And maybe it's better that way. Maybe we were never supposed to understand. As I tried to get my bearings, the whispers started changing. They became words, clear, sharp. At first, my name again, but then broken sentences, like multiple voices whispering over each other. Things like, "You shouldn't be here," and "Leave while you still can." The worst part? The voices were coming from different directions, getting closer, as if they were closing in on me. And that's when I realized I was no longer just being watched. I was being hunted, maybe even tested. The psychological terror became unbearable. As the night dragged on, something strange started happening to my body. My skin was tingling, my arms covered in goosebumps that wouldn't go away. It felt like something was touching me, but nothing was there. A crushing pressure started building in my chest, like something invisible was trying to suffocate me, squeezing my entire body. My vision blurred for a moment, and when it cleared, a massive shadow slid right in front of me, just a few meters away. It made no sound, no footsteps, no breaking branches. It simply glided across the ground, desperate to find any trail. I tripped over something, a circle on the ground, broken branches, rocks placed in strange patterns, symbols. Some looked hand-carved, others like claw marks, and in the center, bones, small bones, maybe animals, or at least I hoped they were. The smell of sulfur was so strong it made me gag, and then the voices stopped. Complete silence, as if I had crossed into something sacred or cursed. That's when it hit me. The forest wasn't just trying to scare me. It wanted me to be part of something that felt like a ritual. I decided to run north, using the stars as my guide. But something insane happened. The more I advanced, the more the forest changed. The trees became twisted, denser. The paths I thought I knew disappeared. It was like the forest itself was shifting. I started seeing marks on the trees, symbols, strange carvings, like they were meant to confuse me, or maybe to warn me. And suddenly, I realized I was walking in circles. No matter how far I ran, no matter which direction I chose, I always ended up back at that same clearing. The one with the bones. The feeling of being trapped became overwhelming. I'm exhausted, physically broken. I sat on the ground, completely defeated. And that's when I saw it. A faint light between the trees. I ran, without thinking twice, but with every step, the light seemed to move further away. It was moving, like it was either guiding me or tricking me. When I finally got close enough, I realized it wasn't just a light. It was a flashlight, hanging from a tree. But the flashlight was glowing from the inside, as if there was no physical object at all, just the light, suspended in midair. I looked around, and that figure, the same one, was there. And for the first time, it spoke. "You were never supposed to come here." And the next moment, everything went black. I woke up, hours later, outside the forest trail. No memory of how I got out, but the cuts on my skin, the bruises, they were real. And the feeling that something let me go. And now I ask you, would you have the courage to spend a night alone in a place like this? Do you think what I experienced was real? Or was it just the mind, breaking under fear and exhaustion? Leave it in the comments. I want to know. And if you want to hear more stories like this, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, because what I share here are stories that most people prefer to pretend don't exist. And the real question is, are you ready to find out what lives in the dark?